Before we were getting like 3 people live, and now we've been doing really well and getting like it depends on the person, but somewhere between 20 and 30 if we're lucky, which is really good.
Got this out there everywhere I could.
What's that?
I said I tried to put it out there everywhere I could.
Yeah, you did great. You did more promotion than most people do. I'm extremely thankful for that. That was one of my. I should put my headphones on. That was one of the things about the show is I really wanted to use it as a way to help promote others and in turn promote myself. And it's amazing how much people will never promote themselves or anything that they do. It's always like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm doing this thing now. And it's like, well, thanks. I appreciate your promotion there.
Exactly. And I've been contemplating if I should come in like Paul Chin.
I think he would appreciate that. I turned down my volume. All right. So pre-show is live. Let's see. We are streaming. I'm getting streams, so that's good. Everyone's happy. Now we just sit back and wait for the people to come in. And let's see. Got a couple eyes out there. That's good. Like 1 or 2 eyes. So, all right. Now the real test is, let me turn on my TV and make sure it's streaming to YouTube. YouTube and Twitch are where we get our biggest audience. And we also promote it on like Facebook, but no one watches on Facebook. Let's see.
Yeah, Facebook would be, where my mom would connect.
Yeah. Well, and we're up there. All right.
I'm just saying, I don't know of many tech people that, outside of the like 3D printing community, that actually use Facebook.
All right, and let me mute that. We're up there. All right, so, the Google or the YouTube is working, so that's good. Yay. So we got some folks out there on Twitch, so say hi to Twitch.
Howdy there.
And I think the tweet just went out saying, hey, the pre-show started, so hopefully that helps as well. So how far do you travel with that setup for talks?
So the most I've traveled with this one was Atlantic Beach, Florida. We drove down as a family last month. So it was like a 12-hour trip because we have 4 kids.
Yeah.
Had this thing stuffed in the back of the Suburban on the very top.
Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine.
It was fun. Actually, the kids were really good.
I took my 3 boys on a trip to we went to southern Arkansas to visit my grandmother, and that was a 19-hour drive straight.
Yeah, that's right.
And we did it at night. So I did it at night so the kids would sleep while I drove, and it actually worked out pretty well. I took a red eye home from the MVP summit. Got home at 8 in the morning, took a little nap, got up, got stuff ready. We got in the van at 5 p.m. I think we're on the road by like 5:30, and I drove straight for 12 hours. And my goal was to get through Atlanta. So from Norfolk to Atlanta is about 12 hours, and we get through Atlanta. And I'm like, all right, I need my wife to drive for a little bit. Now, this whole time she didn't sleep, even though she said, "Oh, I'll sleep so you can drive. I'll sleep so you can drive." I'm like, cool. Well, now I'm tagging you in, and she drove for an hour while I slept, so maybe an hour and a half. And all of a sudden, we're getting off at a rest, like a truck stop or something. And I'm like, oh, how long was I asleep? I was asleep for an hour. I'm like, what's wrong? Like, van had plenty of gas, all that good stuff. She's like, I'm too tired to drive. I need to pull over for a little bit. I'm like, cool, I'm awake. I drove the rest of the way there. It was awful.
With me and my wife, it's switched. So I'm the one that, like, an hour into driving, I'm like, oh, I'm done. And it's if I'm by myself, if I'm by myself driving, I can cruise right through. But if I have the whole van full of people that are falling asleep on me and can't play my music loud or roll the windows down, then I'm like an hour or two and I need to swap out.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. I just have that natural. When I'm by myself, I go a couple hours. If I'm at night, I'll have to pull over and take a little nap. When I had my wife and kids in the car, it's like, all right, I am full focus that entire drive. It's actually the least tired I've ever felt on a drive. And it's probably because I had passengers. It's got to be because I had passengers in the car. I think it was just myself, and leaving me alone with my thoughts is probably really dangerous.
That might be the introvert extrovert difference.
Yeah.
Like I draw my energy when I'm by myself, when I get to stay with my thoughts. A lot of other people need people.
I listen to Audible when I drive long distances. Like so when I came up to visit Roanoke last week, I had a book on tape or book on Audible that I was listening to, and that's a good way for me to kill the time.
This is the only way I made it through the Game of Thrones is audiobooks.
Oh my gosh, how long are those books on Audible?
I want to say they're like 40 hours.
Gosh.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot. It took me months to get through them.
The longest book I've ever listened to was a Ben Franklin autobiography, and it was 27 hours. And I would have swore that took me forever because I can't just have books on as background noise. I have to be doing something like just walking, and I can listen to the book on tape. But if I'm like sitting here working, I can't have Audible going at the same time. I will miss like 3 chapters worth of stuff.
Oh yeah. The same with me. I've got to have something mundane going on.
Yeah.
In order to like partially focus on the audiobook.
Podcast though, like I have 2 categories of podcasts. I have a podcast category that's listen to whenever you want to, just background noise, and then I have a focus category, which are like audiobooks. They're podcasts I want to sit down and actually listen to. Let's see, we got a good number of people out in the live stream. We have Jonathan in the chat. Hi, Jonathan. Jonathan is here for every episode. Matt Groves. Hi, Matt Groves. Good to see you, bud. I watched Matt Groves try to play Fortnite with his kid the other day, and it didn't look like he was doing too well. He was dead within 3 seconds of playing. I watched you, Matt. I didn't comment, but I watched you.
He's not alone. I can play PUBG pretty good, but Fortnite, I've got 3 older boys at the house right now that's streaming Fortnite. One's on a computer, one's on a PlayStation, and one's on a PlayStation on another account, and they're all playing together. I think it's awesome. It brings back like the old LAN party memories.
Yeah.
But I suck at it.
My middle kid, he's in the Minecraft phase right now. He's 7 years old. So everything Minecraft, and I haven't exposed him to Fortnite. Like he does the floss, like he will just randomly bust out the floss, and I want to ask him, do you know what that's from? And because he's never played the game, it's like nothing that we own has Fortnite on it.
Well, we broke ours from doing the floss by telling us the white booty.
So yeah, one more time, you're breaking up on me.
Yeah, we broke ours from doing the floss because we told them it was the wipe your booty dance.
That's a good. I'm gonna use that one. Say, oh, you're wiping your booty, bud. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we got a real good crowd out there in the internet world. So, hello, internet.
The cat people.
Very glad you could join us today. So, Jonathan, we have Matthew. Anyone else out there in Twitch land want to say hi? Or we're also on YouTube Live. So, if you're on YouTube Live, say hi. It should be a competition. It's like, are there more people in Twitch or are there more people in YouTube? Twitch usually wins. I think Twitch has the more dedicated audience.
Mm.
We're also on Facebook, the Swift Kick Facebook page, but Facebook just doesn't have any audience at all. Let's see. Yeah, Swift Kick is live right now. Yay.
Okay.
All right.
They're everywhere, huh?
All right. It's the amazing technology of restream.io. I can just push everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, you get the most audience from Periscope. Really? So I could set up Periscope. I have Periscope set up. You think I should set up Periscope?
Yeah, I used Periscope like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Last time I used it, just because I don't know, it seemed like it was falling off, but the more channels, the better.
Yeah. All right. So authorize. That's nice is we can stream and I can set up additional channels as we stream. And all right. So we're now broadcasting.
Yeah, I tried to live streaming a while back with I tried to do some live streaming myself a while back, and I was using OBX. I think the open source thing. Yeah, and it's hard trying to figure out which stream rate or bit rate and everything for each different channel.
So don't use OBS directly. Use Streamlabs OBS. So they have a fork, and it's better built and better suited for this type of live streaming.
That's cool.
So some comments in the chat about your shirt. It's probably the best conference in the whole entire world. Which you've spoken at twice, right? You were there in year one.
Yeah,
where you try to set the conference center on fire.
Yeah.
And you were here this past year. So were you there in between?
That's right.
I can't remember.
I tried to come in between as a just a regular attendee.
Yeah.
But then I was in a 4-wheeler accident like the week before, and I had to give my ticket to somebody else.
Oh, that is too bad.
Modea, the company I was with, sent somebody in my stead, and that was the year I think Colin Lord presented the SVG stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have one person on Periscope. So Matt Groves, thanks for the recommendation to jump on Periscope. Someone's watching on Periscope. Unless it's you watching on Periscope, Matt, then no thanks. Alrighty. It's not all right. So it's not Matt. That's all right. Random Periscope person that's watching. Hi. We're glad you could join us.
The dad in me wanted to go. I'm glad you could scope us out.
I didn't wait. Say that one more time. All right.
I said the dad in me wanted to go. I'm glad you could scope us out. The random person on Periscope.
All right. Oh, it's Raymond. So Raymond on Twitter just commented. He said, "I'm the guy on Periscope." I love it.
Nice. One. Thank you, Raymond.
So excellent. All right, what time we are? We're top of the hour. We're close enough. We can get this party started because I think folks out there really want to see that Christmas tree lit up and doing all kinds of fancy things. So here's how we get started. Record to the cloud. All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Swift Kick Show. My name is Kevin Griffin. I'm the owner of Swift Kick. We're a software training and consulting company based out of Southeast Virginia. And today I am joined by David Bates. How are you today, David?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I've had the pleasure of knowing David for very many years. As you can tell by his shirt, he has spoken at the conference I've organized for 4 years now. Revolution Conf, and we have some good stories from past Revolution Conf. So if you weren't here for the pre-show, well, that's your loss. We talked about him trying to light a conference center on fire. We ended up moving it out to the beach, so he lit a little bit of the beach on fire. But that's a story for the pre-show. So make sure you come to the next one before that. But David, you're going to talk to us about convincing our bosses to let us build Christmas trees. But before we go there, we need to properly introduce you to the Swift Kick community with just some simple questions. So number one is, David, who do you work for and what do you say you do there?
So I work for a smaller startup company near Virginia Tech called Osmo. So it's OZMO. And I'm the head of innovation for this company. So if you ever call into Verizon for support for your phone and you get to an agent, actually get to speak to somebody and ask them about your phone, the tools that they use to answer your question, Osmo builds.
Oh, cool. So you're the problem.
Yeah, it's the same thing for several other carriers.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm the guy.
You're the guy. That's all right. We're not going to blame you personally. We'll blame the system. Well, cool. So now tell us a little bit about your origin story. You're going to teach us about IoT and just learning cool stuff. But how did you get started in this crazy business that's software development?
Yeah, so I actually started working at a place called Engineered Software. I'd always been interested in tech, and playing around with Linux when it first came out and all of that. But Engineered Software was like my first break, and that was they make PowerCAD, which was like Autodesk for the Mac. If you remember way back when, there was no Autodesk for the Mac before Fusion. Mm-hmm. They had like one a long time ago, but irrelevant. So I started working on that, and then I went over to RFMD, which is radio devices, and they made the chips that can go into cell phones, and I was able to work on Marcom there. From there, I went to Disney and Verizon, working in reverse logistics, and then on to Osmo a few years after that. So I've always been kind of in this industry, and I've always kind of done a slash between marketing and programming. So I've always been kind of on the cutting edge. Back in 2012, I got really interested in Connect and wrote a book on hacking Connect. And that was fun. And I still love that because it was still leading edge back then. I love that kind of computer vision, AI sort of stuff.
That's awesome.
Hopefully that's a good condensed version.
Yeah. I think one of the things they taught us back in school was, having the technology was one thing, but you should also have your foot in another niche. So like you can marketing is a great example. It's like, well, you could be a technologist, but being a technologist in the marketing industry can really give you a leg up because those folks are far and few between. So having the skills to say, well, we should do X, Y, and Z. Oh, by the way, I know how to do X, Y, and Z. We don't have to hire an outside firm. We don't have to do this. We don't have to do that. That's a really good skill to have. Mm-hmm. So, but very cool. And our last question. So might not have a good answer to this based off our pre-show discussion, but do you have any hobbies outside of tech?
Yeah, I guess the secret sauce I'd share there is that I work on programming and AI at work. I work on making and stuff at home, so I have like 6 3D printers and a laser cutter, but I still consider that tech. I also have four kids, so I like to get outdoors with them. So we go, 4-wheeling. I have a side by and I like to go hunting and stuff like that. Just be outdoors.
Very cool. Well, nothing wrong with that. I don't, and I do a lot of 3D printing and making myself, but I don't necessarily consider that tech, just because I don't consider like software dev tech. It's using a different part of your brain, in my opinion. So, but all very cool stuff. Well, without further ado, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you, David. And we have a good number of people in the live chat right now across Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook and Periscope. We probably have more folks on Periscope than we do on Facebook. But if you're out there and you have a question, just drop something in the chat. I can pick it up here, and I'll ask it to David as the messages come in. But David, go ahead and take it away.
All right. So as Kevin said, I'm here to talk about how to convince your boss to let you build Christmas trees. But really, this should be how to let your boss build crazy stuff. So the Christmas tree is one thing, but as he mentioned, I've built several crazy things over the years, and always found a way to have my boss, either support me in it or pay for the equipment or give me time to actually work on these things, outside of core product time. So I took a hard look and I wanted to share with you what I found back over the 15 years or so I've been in the industry and been doing this. So in August now, we were talking during the pre-show about, this slide is a little dated because when I first gave this talk, it was June, but I still think it applies. Somebody still has to have Christmas ornaments up somewhere. So I still feel justified in talking about Christmas during the summer months. As you mentioned, my name is David Bates. I'm an innovator. There's my web addresses. There's not a whole lot on them right now, but getting there. All right. So while this talk is about Christmas trees, it's more about how I got to be able to build the crazy things over my career. So I wanted to, show you some of the past things. So it's a little bit of a drive to get there, but I know you are impatient. So, let's get to it. I don't know if the audio or anything will share from the video, which is not important, but real quick. So this was the first program, or first kind of stepping out of my pure coding job and getting into making in a marketing sense. This was back in 2012. I was, becoming an avid maker and tinkerer, and I ran the digital marketing group for a chip maker called RFMD. They're now called Corvo. But in my position, I got to build things for trade shows. So these were like the iPad mounts that you would put an iPad ad out on a trade show. And if you see here, this is a non-bearded version of me, very young. But anyway, every year this company had an internal conference for idea sharing. And I somehow convinced them that I could build something so high tech that it would wow the engineers. And these engineers, were already working at the forefront of mobile technology. So the bar was pretty high to convince that whatever I had was cool. But the internal conference had like attendance was dropping year over year, and we wanted to do something really cool to get them to come in. So what you're seeing here is there is Sphero balls, and this was the first year that Sphero had come out. And so I got to order 40 Sphero balls and create a racetrack and that gate at the end that had color sensors and connected to Twilio so that the audience could participate, and we got to give away spheros to the engineers based off of who won the actual race. People could use Twilio to like text in and say which color they liked the best, and it would text them back and tell them whether they'd won or not. We gave away, like I said, we gave away a couple of spheros, but the engineers overall really liked it, and year over year they got to come back. But can you imagine, you know, can you imagine controls, an Arduino, some 2x, maybe some EV phone. But I explained, you know, that the attendance had dropped, and that by doing this cool thing will not only draw more engineers in, but they'll reap the benefits from this year over year. Yeah. And that was the case. That year we had a really high attendance, and the years following had a high attendance after that. But sometimes you have to take a stand, have a little bit of guts, and make that first move to say, you know, I've got this crazy idea. Here it is. You know, how can you help me get it going? And it took an entire team of people to do. I say that I built it, but I did the coding part of it and building the little trap or the gate. But there was a lot of people that helped with like management and getting the balls and getting the the racing table in and all of that. So it's always a bunch of people. In parallel to that, so that like at the same time, I got crazy another Halloween incentivized me to create something that would blow them away. You know, I was trying to top them. So, you know, I started with LED controlled pumpkins, like it had an LED in the eyes and the mouth and would, you know, light up. Then I went to sound effects, and, you know, that wasn't enough to make the pumpkin kind of talk to people. At one year, I even put a Nexus 7 tablet with a Bluetooth speaker in a pumpkin and had it running a custom that could hit on the pumpkin, ask questions like text to speech and a creepy voice to respond, and that was fun. But the final pumpkin that I built that I showed at the 2016 RevConf was this one in the upper left, and it actually shot fireballs. This is the first firing test from that. So I've been working to try to get an automated system to be able to shoot fireballs, and there it is firing for the first time. All right. So adding the fire and a connect to kind of detect people and make it be a little safe. It was a full IoT pumpkin at that point. I had learned about Elasticsearch and how to use it with IoT. Be able to update resources, over the net. And this pumpkin was featured both on Adafruit and Hackster.io, as well as being at RevConf back in 2016. But that same the Modea tree, which is when my hobby kind of transitioned into Christmas trees. And so this is the first picture, or the first video of the Modea tree working. And what it would do is you could tweet at it with certain tweets or with a certain syntax, and it would parse what color you were trying to send, and it would take the last two tweets and transition between those two colors. And so this was a good experience into trying to drive, RGB LED strips. It was a good experience in, using the Twitter API and storing, data coming in from the Twitter API, and then acting on it in an IoT sense. I even wound up building a 5-inch touchscreen that basically run Windows IoT Core and showed the last two tweets, like an image of the person that tweeted and the tweet that they tweeted, so that people would know why it was showing the color it was showing. As you can see, the live stream was quite a while ago. My favorite thing from the Modea tree was this kid that posted, that his mom posted that the tree was not black. He was trying to get the tree to turn off by tweeting at it, but we had already thought about that, so I had to reply to him, reply to his mom and said, love the hacker in him, but we're we had already thought of that scenario. And this tree sparked some color wars, even in the office. So I mentioned Colin Lord earlier. He was an engineer at Modea at the time, and he also spoke at GraphConf, I believe, in either 2017 or 2018. But him and a bunch of other people would go back and forth trying to turn the tree between like hokey colors, because we're near Virginia Tech, or some other color, to get it not to show hokey colors. And, it drew a lot of attention. But it was not, because every year we would lose to a book tree. The Blacksburg Library, this was for a contest out in like our lobby here where we work, where a bunch of companies come and put trees together, and then people come in and vote on them. So we really wanted to win, and I thought, how could anybody beat a tweetable tree? And of course, the book tree from the library beat us, and had beat us every year since then. So I kind of discouraged in not, building this ultimate tweetable tree. I was discouraged and wanted to build something else. So Stranger Things came out, and we have a holiday party every year at work, around Christmas time. And I thought, it's perfect to have to build something that where Twitter is representation of the upside down. I don't know, kind of watch the show, but I watched behind there, and what it would do is you could tweet at it, and it would spell out the letters of the first word that you tweeted to it. So if you said like run, it would, blink R and then U and then N. And I have another talk on that, but I really love the fact that Twitter kind of represented the upside down, and that the upside down could come in to our world the same way that this lady's son was able to talk to her from the upside down. It was kind of a good poetic thing. So I really like that. But the key thing with that was I got experience with NeoPixels, and NeoPixels are individually addressable LEDs. The first tree that I did was an RGB LED strip, meaning that you told the strip what color to be, and the entire strip was that color. NeoPixels, you could say pixel number 37 is blue, but the rest of them are color. So now let's talk about your last point. We went round and round. How can we beat this book tree? What is so much better than a tweetable tree? And that's when a coworker of mine came up with the grand idea of mimicking a game from Hasbro called Drop Mix. And it's basically a card game where you can drop different cards in different order, change the beat or tone or speed of the music played. And so you can play a game with it to try to get different music out of it. So we thought, how cool would it be if you could drop different cards on a platform and have the tree perform different actions? And of course, they had a cool logo. So the very first thing that we did, being kind of side marketing people inside, makers, we of course had to create our own logo for it. So we thought that was a pretty cool logo. Hasbro, don't sue me over it. I'm not trying to sell the tree. All right. So then, we had grand ideas, started prototyping everything out. We wanted to have elastic servers and maybe even go the serverless route, have the tree have some kind of website that you could interface with it. We had pie in the sky kind of ideas about where it could go. Told us that we had 2 weeks to finish it. So have you ever tried to order technical parts through a non-technical person? Or have you ever tried to justify the business case of twinkle lights, and that by purchasing these twinkle lights it would make you more productive? So these are a couple of the hurdles that I faced getting over this, and we were able to do it. So I was like, let's quickly, get these parts ordered. Let's, get the boss on page with where we're heading with it. And so we sat down and we're like, okay, what can we accomplish in 2 weeks? And we kind of had this, all of the walls here at Osmo that are in meeting rooms are painted with the dry erase paint. So we have this swarm area right outside of our open office seating. And I got together with another coworker and we were like, how could we make this a reality? What could we do? And this is the kind of room meeting that we got out of. And we had to architect a solution. And so for a while, that swarm room looked like this. You may recognize the box on the bottom left of the table. We went back and forth, erasing and drawing and coding up things. In fact, I think the TV in the back is actually booting up a Raspberry Pi at the moment. On the right-hand side below is like a tree simulator that we had to simulate the positions of the LEDs and the thing. So we were gung ho on this. Anytime that we weren't working at work, we were sitting at this war room table building this thing. So we, worked on the coding, got everything architected together, but we also wanted to try this new Node.js thing that we'd heard about called Feathers. And Feathers is basically a quick way to bring up a REST API and build points. So we wanted to try that and get it to see if we could use it in our product. So we started working on that. And this is actual footage of me trying to put the hardware together. On the Stranger Things wall the year before, I had actually burnt the first LCD screen by trying to solder it to something. So this is not far off from what it looks like for me to work on hardware. But I also got to work with ESP8266s and, building, that's now led into, we use that as a base for a lot of our data tracking. Like when we have to have a sensor and track data, we use that hardware that we use to build on the Christmas tree. So it's always been beneficial. In fact, we're looking at building custom time tracking hardware for our hourly employees to where they can have like a time schedule at their desk, be flipping off. Benefits of being able to do this kind of exploration is here's the overall architecture that we came up with. We have 2 color sensors along with 2 node MCUs, and they communicate an array of R, G, and B to a Raspberry Pi. So we have the 2 different colors that get transmitted to it, which the Raspberry Pi's job is to control timing. Timing for the songs and timing for which lights to light up when. And it generates an array of 900 different RGB objects, or, they're an array of 3Ms as well, but basically a 900 element long array, because there were 900 LEDs on the full Christmas tree. So it had to generate those and keep up with timing and send those to a node MCU that we called the tree parser. So we had the color sensor, the tree server, turn the RGB values into the 900, and then the tree parser, its job was to do the actual communication to the light strip to light up the LEDs. But we found out that it was too slow. So the piece at the bottom, the node MCU that needed to read that 900 length array of 3 values each and then set those per LED, it was too slow to keep up with the timing we needed to do animations for music. Because it was, 80 megahertz CPU. And it just wasn't fast enough to be able to consume that much stuff. We even tried, not using a JSON object, but using a CSV instead, and it just wasn't working out. So finally, we swapped over to use Raspberry Pi as the tree parser. So we introduced another Raspberry Pi to do the parsing, and that worked out great. The tree worked out fabulous, and it drew a lot of people. But we had, as engineers, sometimes you put Easter eggs in your code. And so, of course, all of these fun projects, we try to put an Easter egg in. Our Easter egg is that 1/10 of the time, a very small fraction of the time, Baby Shark was to play instead of a Christmas song. But it turned out that Baby Shark wound up playing all the time. And so we were diabolical. People, they were walking into the office were like, Baby Shark is going off the again. Can you make it stop? Right. But in the end, we won. We won the contest. Placed first place. Everybody loved it. The kids coming out to it. This picture here of the kids using it was just excellent. We had a lot of people, come up to it. And the coolest thing is the kids thought it was magic. We had this cardboard box wrapped in Christmas paper, and they were putting color cards on Christmas paper, and the tree was reacting to them. So it was the best thing ever. So now let's go into a little bit of a demo. Before I do, is there any questions, Kevin, from the that I need to answer?
I haven't seen any come through. We also are on a little bit of a delay, so we'll give it a second or two.
Sure.
Yeah, you know what? Just go ahead and move on. So if there are any questions, I'll stop you.
Good deal.
All right.
We trudge on. All right. So typically I like to have one of my kids in as a GIF for this demo slide for when I do these presentations, but I couldn't help this one. All right. So I have up a connection to the actual. Oh, there goes my phone. Connection to the actual network that's running the tree server. And I'm SSH into that thing. What you've been seeing so far is the error state of the tree. And I think that's really important to showcase is that if none of this worked, we could have still made a pretty tree. And that's a key component when you try to do these type things. Try to build on top of the core functionality. So you start out with, let's light up a tree with 900 LEDs. Then you add in the music, and then you add in other lights or other light sequences and things like that. So become more complicated as you go. And as you can see from the screen, points, but there's one that's on a tree. And if I connected this on my computer, no longer streaming to you, so I'm not going to do that. But I have my phone here, and it's connected to it, so I should be able to execute commands on it. All right, so first we got to CD into the place where it's at on the Pi, and then I can actually, I think it was that one. Then I can actually run this forever package. Just like start JS, there we go. And what you should see is the tree will respond to it soon. So it's listening for the color changes right now. And as soon as it starts getting them, it'll start getting those RGB values, and then it'll send those over to the tree parser and start doing animations. So you can see the tree now is doing an animation and it's playing. All right, so I'll just continue to let that go, but you can see on the screen that the output of this is the two sensor RGB values. So each sensor blasts a white light for a little bit and then sends its RGB value over. You can see that one says 0 because it's, I don't have a color on top of it, but as soon as I put green back down, you should see green as the primary color that it recognizes. All right, and then on the other side, we have red. So of course the tree will have a red and green, but you can change that to say a purple and a blue. And hopefully by the next time it picks it up, that card seemed a little ragged. There it goes. So we got blue. We still got a little bit of black. All right. Doesn't look like purple wants to show up really well. So let me show a little bit of code as to how that works. So the first thing I want to show is the code for the color sensor, and all this is in our GitHub repo. So you can go out and actually buy the same equipment and build the same tree for this year's Christmas. Starting out, we had one of the biggest troubles that we had was trying to map the color sensor's sense of a color to what the LEDs could actually display. So the LEDs, can only display bright values. They can't display dark values because they're light. So it's a map, kind of rematch the color scheme over to a lighter color scheme. And if it's darker than what it needs to be, it ramps it down really quickly. So dark colors become darker, lighter colors become really light as it moves forward. Then we initialize the color sensor. It may be hard to do this over Christmas music. So we initialize the color sensor. We connect to Wi-Fi, which all of this is standard ESP connection stuff if you've ever messed with an ESP or a Node MCU device. Then we set an interrupt on the color sensor, get its raw data, calculate the color temperature, calculate the lux, and then we set the interrupt back again. So this is basically turn on the LED, get the raw data from it, calculate the color temperature from that raw data, calculate the luminance from that, turn the light back, and that's what that does. Then we do some math to that to apply the value up above to it, kind of put it in the right color space because we may get things that are outside of 256 or 255 from the color sensor, so we want to put it back down in that. Then we do some debugging, print all that stuff out to a serial connection, and then we patch the color to the tree server. And so patch color is its own function. Well, we patch the color, then we wait 3 seconds and do it all again, right? This thing does it just as fast as it can, but hopefully every 3 seconds. When we patch the color, we create a JSON object that represents the RGB values. Then we just create a HTTP client to connect to the tree server, which lights one. The other sensor lights two, so the points that can be patched, the color sensor 1, color sensor 2. And then we patch that RGB value to it and start there again. We start all over again. We have some error handling where if it just fails, it'll go on to the next iteration and try again. And that's why when the tree is in its failed state, it can continue to work and just pick up. Then we have the tree parser. So the thing that I'm not showing in here just yet is the tree server. The tree server gets that RGB value and then it turns it into timing things. And we'll get to that right after this. But once it turns it into the 900 length array, the parser then needs to take that 900 length array and actually turn everything, turn the individual pixels on. And that's what this is. It's a Python piece of code that just goes through and processes the positions of the pixels and pulls out the colors from and sets that to that individual pixel. This def rainbow cycle is just a function that it hits if there's an error, and I'll show that here in a minute. So it goes in it pulls from the tree server, from the lights endpoint, does a GET request, and then it basically goes through that function up above that calculates the pixels, and then it turns that pixel on and sleeps and goes through it again, right? And if there's any exception, then it does rainbow cycle. And rainbow cycle, all it does is it sets random colors to the tree. So, and then finally, we have for each of the songs that play, like say Jingle Bells, we have a file for it that defines the light pattern for it. So as you can see, we have several patterns that it go by, and then we define the song itself, and the song is just an array of the pattern and the delay that it should be at. So this is like a millisecond time into the song, what pattern should be playing at that time. So that's how it decides what lights to send to the tree parser whenever that takes over. Okay. I think I messed up in one of these. The stuff up at the top of this file is actually for this wheel is for generating those random colors. The setting the pixels is really right in here. So it just iterates through and sets pixels for the thing. So sorry for the correction there. All right. So the demo worked pretty good. Let me kill that so that you can see the rainbow tree again. There we go. So you can see as soon as I shut off the server, the tree went right back into rainbow mode, and that concludes the demo for that. My ultimate goal in doing these things is that I love when kids think something is magic, or even adults when they think it's magic. And then you can explain the technology underneath it, and they're like, oh, I get it now. But I love that when kids come into something that's new and maybe super technology and super simple to us, but to them it's just magic. And I have 4 kids, so I love to do that to them and let them experience the magic before I kind of break it down. It's getting harder as they get older. But I love this quote from Arthur C. Clarke, and I've used it as a basis for what I try to create, when I do it. And so it's the joy I get from being a maker. The reason Osmo lets me do stuff like this is because I get to experiment with unknown tech without the fear of failure, and that's the key point. If the tree had have just lit up like this rainbow tree, the error state that we called it, how you have a beach ball for Mac OS X or a blue screen for Windows. Our error state for our tree is rainbow tree. But anyway, if the project had completely bombed and all we would have done is had the LEDs light up, we would have had a Christmas tree represented out there, and it would have been a hit. I don't know if we'd have won the actual contest, but we still would have shown up as a good contender, and that's a big part of it. But from these trees and pumpkins and things, I've learned about Elasticsearch. I've learned about scraping websites. I've learned about hitting the Twitter API. I've learned about feathers. I've learned about JSON processing within a microcontroller that runs at 80 megahertz. There's been a ton of benefit that's came out of just building these trees. And so I truly believe that if you get smart people together with some great ideas, you can create magic. And that's what my whole team at Osmo tries to do. We try to get smart people looking at crazy ideas and evaluate them, and then turn those into magic. And so that's what we do on a day-to-day basis now. But this talk is about how to convince your boss to do it, not me. And so I took a hard look, over all of these crazy projects that I presented today, and there's hundreds more like this that I've done. But looking across all of them, how did I get my bosses to buy into it. You know, how do you convince your boss to buy into building a Christmas tree? And I broke it down into three things. Um, and it's these three questions. If you could answer them yourself, then you should be prepared to go to your boss and ask for it. And any good boss should be able to say, yeah, I can see the benefit from that, and allow you to do it. So the first one is, how will this increase your knowledge? There's a ton of effort on trying to course and camps and things like that. But, and all those have a really good place, but there's also the idea that let me just go play with the technology. Let me see how it works in a way that, if I fail, it's no big deal. Let me, at home, let me try to pull up a temperature sensor and, push the data from that, to the cloud. Let me learn about it that way rather than trying to build, an alcohol sensor for, police or something. Let's start out small. Let's start out, where you can experiment. And so that I think there's benefit that that your boss can see from saying, I want to increase my knowledge here, but I want to do it in a way that I can experiment without failure. So if it involves a service, a library, a language, architecture you'd like more experience with, make sure to notate that, make sure to get that across. The second one is, how does this relate to work? What is the goal of the project? How will the education be applied? And for me, with this particular Christmas tree, it was Feathers.js. We wanted to learn about Feathers.js as a way to build REST endpoints. We build REST APIs all the time, right? But we had heard that Feathers was a really good way to do it, but we didn't have any project that we could experiment with it on. But now we use this Feathers library in a lot of our projects that we do. If nothing else, to bring something up quickly to get a proof of concept going, and then maybe we'll switch over to serverless or something after that. But the endpoints are well defined. It's become a great tool for us. And then what are the fringe benefits that your company or yourself or your boss might get out of it? So working with another team to strengthen the ties between you, or local company recognition. And the example I'll give there again is with this tree. I had to work with HR to order parts. I had to work with several people across several teams to, decorate the tree in the appropriate way. I had to work with marketing to make sure that the messaging that we put out on the wall outside was, the correct kind of messaging we wanted to portray for the company. We had to make sure that the wrapping paper had, rocket ships on it, because that's kind of our theme. So there was, I got to work with all of those people, and through that we made our relationship stronger. There's also the local company recognition. People that have known me as the Christmas outside of work. I don't know if I want to be known for that, but I'll have people be like, "Oh yeah, you're the one that made that Christmas tree, right?" And so they recognize Osmo with this Christmas tree, and they recognize that it was magic. So of course this company has to be doing something cool. So we get we work right next to a college, so of course having us associated with something that's cool and high tech is great for recruitment. So it was all all of the benefit there. As a final slide to my talk, I like to ask you, what are you going to create? Who are you going to help? How do you make the world better? And this may seem like pie in the sky stuff, but really, try to think of something crazy. Not necessarily crazy, but try to think of something that you want to build and go after it. And if it aligns with the three things that I mentioned on the last slide, try to get your boss to pay for it. Try to get your boss to allot you the time to work on it or research it. And I promise you that, time after time of doing it, your boss will respect you more and let you do more things. Like when I first came to Modea, the first Christmas tree was a hard sell, but I already had created the pumpkins, and I already had created, these other crazy things that I was known for, and I was going and speaking about them. So they already knew that I was a maker and that I had this capability. So the sale was a little easier. But the first time you try to make this, it's going to be hard. So you might need to make a few things on your own to convince your boss that, hey, I can do this. I can experiment in this way. I can build these crazy things. With that, I hope that everybody has a Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
Absolutely.
All righty. Well, that was awesome. Very cool. So we are lagging a little bit across YouTube and I think Twitch a little bit. So anyone out there, if you have any questions, now is the time. Get them in there. So I have YouTube over my TV and it's still on your last slide. So it's coming around right now. But very cool. And now I have so much IoT. Like I have Arduinos and all kinds of crap just sitting around my office that I haven't done anything with. I need to come up with a project and just do something.
Just get into it.
Yeah.
I've got a guy that sits near me. We've got a pretty good maker community here now. When I first started here, everybody was scared to make a thing. This was like 6 years ago. But now we have, a Slack channel for makers to share their ideas and get help, even within the company. And it's been wonderful. I've got a guy that's trying to turn his blinds into automated things because he rents his house and he doesn't want to mess up the blinds. So he's came to me to be like, how do I interface with this blind?
Yeah.
So it's been cool just as a thought thing.
Yeah, that's a cool little idea. And like, I'm sure there's someone out there going, oh, you could pay $300 for a set of blinds that do that for you.
Yeah.
Or I could just screw around and make something myself with a little servo and a circuit board, and it just works. That is awesome. Well, the chat, for having a good number of people out there, it's pretty quiet. So we'll just go ahead and wrap it up there, and we'll go into the after show, which is maybe what people ask the real questions. But thank you, David, so much for joining us today. It was a real pleasure. It was a great presentation. Thanks to everyone who joined us for the live stream. And if you're watching this after the fact, join us live. We're on Wednesdays. We really don't have like a set schedule. We're just kind of every couple of weeks. We have something going on, but you can check us out on Twitter, and we're on Facebook. Just get notifications when we're going to go live. We also have a mailing list you can get signed up for. But we'd love to have you at the next show, and we'll see you all next time. Take care, David.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, the recording is off. Cool. Excellent. Well, awesome. Yeah, that went really well. You cut out a couple times, which I don't know if anyone else got, but it happened to me a handful of times, but no big deal. It all came across. Someone was asking about your GitHub. So I dropped your GitHub repo in the chat.
Sweet. Yeah.
So
the whole reason I came into the office and did this from the office is because I've got the 3 boys at home playing Fortnite, and I figured they'd be saturating my connection. So looks like I wasn't even safe at the office.
I know. One of my to-dos is I need to upgrade my internet. I'm only running like 50 or 70. I'm running 50 down, and I really want to upgrade to gigabit, but I don't want to have to talk to a person to get gigabit internet. It's like gigabit internet is not worth it to me to talk to a person to upgrade my internet to gigabit. Well, I mean, this is first world problems, right?
Yeah. Well, we're seeing Floyd is actually getting both Facebook fiber and Citizens fiber running at gig speed. So Facebook is running
Nice.
like a fiber line through, but Citizens is running fiber to the home for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
we're all
awesome.
getting gig. Mm-hmm. My only thing is that they data cap you. Their data caps are generous, but they still data cap you.
Now you have a goal then.
Yeah,
I need to hit my data cap. All right, I need 4 TVs running 4K Netflix, and I have all my torrents going, and whatever else you can do.
That's right.
Nice.
That's right. I mean, if I'm gonna pay for it, I'm gonna use it.
I mean, or you could just do npm install, and boom, you hit your data cap.
Exactly.
You're done. Exactly. So, well, excellent. Well, David, thanks so much again for hanging out with us. This, like everything else, will go live on YouTube. Well, it was live on YouTube, but the replay will be on YouTube early next week. But we had a good turnout. I think we capped at around 27 total, which is good. I'm really glad that we moved to this platform, because this is working much better than what we were doing before. But awesome, very cool.
Well, thank you for having me, and continued success for this. And hopefully, I'll see you at the next shindig, wherever it may be.
Wherever it might be. I think the next thing I'm scheduled for is Tech Bash. And that's So it's quite a hike to get up there.
I should be at the Open IO thing. I forget what the actual event's called, but it's the one in Raleigh.
For All Things Open?
Yeah, All Things Open. I'm not speaking, but I should be attending there. Hopefully.
I've wanted to go for the past couple of years, but it conflicts with a business retreat I take. Mm-hmm. And that's usually more important to me than All Things Open is. But 1 year I'll be able to get down there.
There you go.
Very nice. Well, all right, David. Well, I will let you go. Enjoy the rest of your day. And everyone who's still hanging out on the live stream, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. And don't be a stranger. All right. Take care.